Welcome and thank you for joining us for our latest edition of Circana Inspire publications. SIPs, Changing Consumer Beverage Preferences. This will be a review of non-alcoholic and alcoholic beverages and the opportunities that exist. There's no way for us to really provide you with an exhaustive list of all the different opportunities in beverages in one session. Therefore, we are starting with these, but we have a plan to cadence more insights as we move into 2025. We will take the hour to present, so we welcome questions in the Q&A within the platform. And one of us will get back to you when we are able. That might be during the webinar or it might be post. We will also make the deck available within the next day or two via an email that you will receive with the link. My name is Sally Lyons-Wyatt, and I am a Global EVP and Chief Advisor for CPG and Food Service. I am thrilled to be co-presenting with several of my colleagues today. Scott Scanlon, who is one of our resident alcohol experts. Kara Lois, who's another food and beverage and food service consumer expert. Tatiana Lopez Aranzazu. She will come to us with some consumer insights around what's happening from a demographic standpoint. Brooks Berdine is going to be able to give us an out-of-home perspective that I think you're going to find really interesting. So before we begin, I do want to make sure that we are grounded in the universe that we used for our research. Combining our new MULO Plus with Convenience Universe plus our food service universe allowed us to provide an enhanced view of beverages. Food service includes restaurants and non-commercial food service. In case you're wondering what's non-commercial, it includes hospitals, schools, workplaces, etc. Our universe includes non-alcoholic beverages as like categories: carbonated beverages, energy drinks, sports drinks, bottled water, juice, etc., as you can see here. The alcoholic beverages include beer, wine, liquor, and premixed cocktails. What is not included are nightclubs and bars. The topics we will cover today include in and out of home thirst quenchers. This is an overview of the non-alcoholic and beverage alcohol universe. It will cross not only what people are purchasing, who's purchasing, and how does that look in and out of home. The rise of NOLO and Sober Curious. This is all about the non-alcoholic and beverage alcohol, the no and low alcohol ready to drink offerings that have really emerged. Raising your glass to innovation. This is new ingredients and formats that we find in the US. Have it your way. The way that consumers are creating personalizing drinks. Drinking it social, and then really about social media and its influence on beverages. Finding growth one sip at a time will provide us a view of the future of what we think are going to be some emerging trends to watch, but also what are some of the action ideas that you can take back to your company in order to activate even additional growth plans. Kara, I will now turn it over to you to start the conversation around in and out of home thirst quenchers.
Great, thank you, Sally. So I'm going to start us off with the total in and out of home beverage market. As you see here, the average person in the US drinks in excess of 1,500 drinks per year, which is an increase of 1.5% versus a year ago. And for those of you doing the math in your head, that equates to 4.1 different drinks per person per day. So what is this in dollar terms? Beverages account for $483 billion in annual sales in the US. And we break this out by retail versus restaurants, excluding bars, as Sally mentioned before. And you'll notice that more sales are in the retail side. About 55%, that's the 207 billion of non-alcoholic beverages, and about 75% on the alcohol side. Again, keeping in mind this is restaurants. And this is against what is about an average of 60% for total food and beverage. Now, growth trends in these respective channels are also consistent with total food and beverage, where there's been stronger growth in the last 5 years on the retail side, where you can see the darker green. And in the last year, there's been more price growth on the food service side that has driven stronger growth in food service. Now, overall, beverages has been a good place for growth. Here, what we're doing is we're ranking the top categories by dollar sales across all of retail. And you can see across all categories the prominent role played by beverage categories. So carbonated beverages, energy drinks, weight control and protein drinks, bottled water, sports drinks, beer, and beverageware. The latter, of course, being the a fancy bottled water trend that we're all aware of. Now, going deeper, we've broken categories out further and are purely looking at volume here, both long-term and short-term. So you can see the underlying trends of what kind of subcomponents of beverages are growing. So if we focus in the upper right green shaded corner of this page, we're looking at categories that have grown volume both in the last 5 years from 2019 to 2023, as well as this year in 2024 year to date. And once we break it down to those smaller categories, you can see some consistent themes in what's growing, right? And that a lot of this is around energy and protein, tea, coffee, also serving that energy need, but also kind of more specifically the convenient modes of tea and coffee. So you're ready to drink your single cup coffee, creamers, and on the same line of creamers, the controlling your sweetness and your flavor with drink enhancers as consumers pair water with their own amount of flavoring to customize their beverage. Now, channel shift has played an important role in the industry across total food and bev, with more growth shifting to value channels. And this is true also for beverages. So if we start looking at non-alcoholic beverages on the left-hand side of this chart, you can see more balanced growth across different channels: grocery, mass and club, convenience. But definitely, of course, the outsized growth that is coming from mass and club. So that 53% is the contribution to growth for 2024 versus last year. And that's on top of the base of 32% of sales. Now, on the alcohol side, it's a bit harder to read in the last year, where the more important and somewhat volatile convenience channel has declined in sales. So overall, the segment has declined for the latest year in 2024. But again, you see the important role that mass and club are playing in terms of driving sales growth in the category. Now, the convenience channel is more susceptible to market conditions, but yet is a key channel for many categories in the past couple of years. And so several categories, those that we're listing here, have a higher dependence and sales driven through the convenience channel. So if we start just basing ourselves in total food and beverage, 13% of food and beverage sales goes through the convenience channel. By comparison, 22% for non-alcoholic beverages and 39% for alcoholic beverages. And then the last column, you can see how much growth is coming from the channel versus how much sales sit in the channel. So categories like sports drinks, energy drinks, and RTD tea and coffee, they have a high sales penetration in convenience. But as you see from the amount of growth that they're driving from the channel, which is slightly less than their sales, as they have more balanced growth also in retail. On the alcohol side, beer and premixed cocktails are both heavily sold via convenience, about 50%. And in the last few years, we've seen outsized growth through this channel for these categories. So 69% of beer growth has come from convenience in the last year, or in the last couple of years. Now, what about total inflation? Of course, it's been a big factor across the food and beverage market in the last couple of years. And so we closely break out the components of what is driving the average price growth for food and beverage, and compare that to beverages in the last couple of years. So first, I want to ground in these purple circles in the right-hand side of each one are the total price growth since 2021 to 2024. So you can see non-alcoholic beverages has increased 24%. That's slightly higher than total food and beverage, which increased 22%. On the flip side, alcoholic beverages average price have grown a lot less at 12% over the same time period. So the other components that we're breaking down in these bars helps us understand a little bit about how much is coming from price growth versus product mix and premiumization and use of promotion. So the dark purple is the increase from the base price. The pink is the impact from changes in the amount of promotion being used. And the orange is the change in the average price due to the mix of products that's being sold. So as we compare beverages to total food and beverage, of note, you can see that product mix is generally positive. This is indicating that there are higher average prices paid due to the types of products people are buying. And we're not showing this here, but in the back, we can see that this is coming from innovation. There, of course, is, given the conditions and inflation, product mix and consumer shifting down to lower cost items. But at the same time, the kind of innovation and new products that are coming into market are driving an overall more premium effect. And particularly, you see that in the alcohol segment, where that effect is bigger than it is on the beverages and rest of food. Meanwhile, the pink indicates the increasing promotions. So this number being negative in 2023 and 24 is because we've seen more promotions than a year ago. And that brings down the average slightly. Now, as we look at the more recent quarters, we can see that starting to stabilize. And as we look forward next year, likely this becomes less of a factor as we've gotten back to a point where promotion is hitting a kind of similar level and steadying off. Now, as we look across categories from a price perspective, this slide is looking at the average price growth by category versus how much volume is growing. And so the price growth is listed on the y-axis. So you can see the highest price growing categories like carbonated beverages and tea bags have seen most price growth in 24 year to date. And while there's generally little relationship at this category level with the impact on volume, you can see categories like sparkling water growing volume despite price growth at the same time. And we talked a moment ago about that premiumization effect and generally kind of overpowering the trade down and kind of what's coming in new, coming in at a higher price per volume. At the same time, what we're looking at here is the brand switch and how consumers are shifting volumes between brands within beverages. So this is the volume share shift change year over year by different levels of price tiers. This is very similar to what we're seeing in total food and beverage. The middle is losing volume and generally seeing more premiumization as consumers look to the small ticket items that beverages and CPG represents for small luxuries and places to get a better experience. Now, at the same time, private label, while is small in many beverage categories, it is also gaining share. These gains are, of course, less than are observed in other food categories where private label presence is higher. But keep in mind that low private label penetration does not mean no chance of store brands gaining in the category. In fact, we see private label is gaining across the store, even where penetration is low and even where you might not expect any growth. And the premium opportunity is present in many beverage categories, and a key way to survive in the current environment as consumers continue to look for value, but still are willing to pay for the more premium opportunity where it's worth it. So you can see here just some examples of where categories fall in terms of how much presence of premium is in the category, with those with more premium presence on the right. And then on the other axis, you can see the growth in premium versus year ago. So categories like yogurt drinks and cocktail mixes seeing the most growth in premiumization and on top of an already strong presence for those categories. And with that, let's take a look at consumer drivers. I'll pass it over to Tatiana.
Thank you, Cara. Hello, everyone. Now we're going to review the key demographic data starting with the generations. Here we have the top 5 categories by sales by generations. And as you can see, CSDs, water, energy drinks, and dairy are the top categories by sales for all ages. Beer is in the top for all, but Gen Z, which has sport drinks in their top 5. Then, if we look at the categories by top growth, we found that the categories that emerge have functional and better for you products. We identified 3 main themes, starting with energy. We see that all generations are growing in liquid drink enhancers, mainly driven by energy enhancers. And also we see that energy drinks is in the top for all but boomers. Here we have 2 key insights to highlight. Millennials over-index versus total US population in energy drinks. And as you know, they are in their prime earning years with growing families and growing careers, so they are searching for an energy boost. Then we have seniors on the other side, which are underrepresented in liquid drink enhancers versus total US, but they are growing versus last year. So what can we do to educate the senior population about these enhancers to keep this growth? Then we have the weight control theme. We see that refrigerated weight control, nutritional liquids and powders is in the top for all generations but seniors. And we see that boomers are getting more worried about the weight control drinks, with 2 of the weight control categories in their top, the refrigerated and non-refrigerated. And finally, we have the global and good for you trend. Here highlighted in yellow, we have all other milk, which is mainly kefir, in the top growth for all of the generations but Gen X. Kefir is a very popular drink in Eastern Europe and Turkey, and now it has become very popular in the US. And we also see ready refrigerated yogurt drinks in the top for Gen X. And these are better for you products with less sugar, probiotics, no artificial sweeteners in refrigerated yogurt drinks. I know there's a lot of information here, but you're gonna have this when we send the presentation to review it for your own research. Then if we look at income, we see a similar trend with the health and weight control. We see refrigerated weight control drinks among the top growth driver for all income households. And despite not being number 1 for high income households, they have it in their top 5 among with non-refrigerated weight control powders. Lower income is underrepresented but growing in liquid drink enhancers. So could there be an opportunity to find affordability and engagement so that consumers can have these drink boosters and keep the growth? By ethnicity, we found that global drinks are growing interest in diversifying US population. As you can see here, all other milk, kefir, is growing and skewer bigger than the total US for Hispanic and Asian ethnicities. White ethnicity is overrepresented in liquid drink enhancers category, and then African American ethnicity is underrepresented but growing in coffee. How could we attract these consumers to the category to keep this growth going? Then we looked at the top attributes. When looking at the attributes, we discovered that the top 5 growing attributes are functional beverages, and they have evolved the beverage landscape over the past 4 years. The top 5 attributes by CAGR from 2021 are immune defense with 28% CAGR, protein, energy, prebiotic, and digestion claims. And who are the demographics driving this growth? Millennials are the top growth driver for immune defense claims, and Gen Z for the other top 4 claims. Higher income households are the top growth driver for immune and protein, while mid to low income households are driving the growth in energy, prebiotic, and digestion claims. To summarize, younger generations are one of the main drivers of the functional beverages. They are the top growing generation across the top 5 attributes, and they are overrepresented in energy and prebiotic claims, seeking an extra boost and also health benefits. Millennials play a very important role here, as they have the highest share in 3 out of these top 5 attributes in energy, prebiotic, and digestion claims. Older generations, on the other hand, are less worried about some functional benefits, skewing less to energy, prebiotic, and digestion claims. And seniors are the only generation declining versus last year in digestion claims. They are worried about staying healthy, and they are growing the most in immune defense claims compared to other attributes growth for their age. Then when looking at household income, with higher disposable income, high-income households have the highest share for all of the top attributes and skew higher for protein and prebiotic claims. On the other side, lower-income households skew less to immune defense, protein, and prebiotic, but have the highest share in energy. They might be looking for more strength and drive for their occupations. Then where consumer purchase functional beverages varies driven by assortment and affordability. Food is the biggest channel for 4 out of the top 5 attributes, with around 50% share for prebiotic and digestion claims, and around 30% claim share for energy and protein. Mass and Supercenter is the top for immune defense claims with around 40% share, and Club is the top for protein claims with 26% share. We also wanted to highlight that the checkout area is still very relevant for the consumers, and it's where shoppers are likely to notice beverages. As you can see in the graph below, the top items noticed in the checkout area in the last 4 weeks are confections, beverages, and snacks, and they are outpacing the food and beverage growth. Front end is almost 2% of total store dollars and 4% of units. Dollars are up 4% and units are up 1%. And actually, shoppers buying checkout products tend to spend more time in the channel and make more trips than the average shopper. In the latest 52 weeks, the beverage category is up almost 7% in dollars, 4% in units, and 3% in price per unit. And these increases are driven by CSDs, energy, and sport drinks, while tea, coffee, and water categories are down. On this slide, we have the share of seat for in and out of home for the last 5 years. To the left, we have the retail data, and to the right, we have the food service or out-of-home data. As you can see here, sports and energy drinks are the top growth drivers for both, growing more than 2 percentage points. For retail, they are the second biggest category by share with 17%. And for food service, energy drinks is a combination of ready-to-drink cans and the refreshers and quenchers that we have all seen in Starbucks and other coffee chains that are new. Then if we look at the top declining categories, we have juices in retail and coffee in food service. This declining coffee is driven mainly by traditional coffee, hot regular. Actually, iced coffee and specialty coffees like cappuccinos, espressos, and lattes are gaining share. Now, you may be thinking when looking at juices, are juice consumption moving from retail to out of home? As we see the decline in retail, but an increase in food service. This increase in food service is actually for the last 5 years. Over the last year, this trend is reversing. And finally, for CSDs, which is the top category by share for both in and out of home, they are losing due to regular CSDs. Diet and zero CSDs are flat in food service, but growing in retail from products like Poppy. And with this, I'm going to pass it over to Brooks to guide you through the out-of-home area. Brooks, we can't hear you.
I am going to take over for a second while we work through the technical difficulties. And I'm so sorry because Brooks is amazing, but I want to make sure we get the message across. What is really fun about out of home is that 65 billion beverages were consumed from food service in the latest year. It accounts for 38% of food service servings. It's actually amazing that when we hear from operators, it really is like consumers are consuming beverages every single second when you think about retail and food service. When you look between the beverages consumed from a food service, it is down 1% versus year ago, but traffic for food service is down 2%. So that is contributing to that as well.
Are you able to hear me now?
Yes, we are. Thank you.
Amazing. Great. Well, thank you for starting me off. Building off of that, so beverages are very important to the food service industry. 81% of all visits contain a beverage, which is up by 3 points versus 2021 and even with 2019 levels. As consumers were more likely to order delivery and consume meals at home during the pandemic, many consumers left off drinks from their order and settled for a drink at home, leading to the dip we see there in 2020. As mobility rose and we returned to on-premises dining, beverages once again regained popularity at food service. On the right side of this slide, we see that among beverage visits, 45% are beverage-only visits, and 55% of them also contain a food item. Beverage-only visits are more common at vending and C-store channels, while food plus beverage visits are more common at restaurants. When we think about where consumers are most likely to source beverages from food service, like foods, quick service restaurants are the largest shareholders of beverages at 45%, even though the QSR segment is less important to beverages than it is to foods. The two segments that over-index for beverage share are non-commercial, which includes vending, and retail food service, which includes convenience stores. The right side of this slide goes a little deeper into beverage share by subchannel. As with foods, QSR's hamburger is the largest shareholder of beverages with a 15% share. C-stores, which are included in retail, are the second largest channel and heavily over-index with a 14% share of beverages. The third and fourth largest channels, QSR gourmet coffee and tea, and business and industry all other, both over-index share of beverages. And think of business and industry all other as coffee from an office. Cutting beverage category share by age shows how important it is to know your consumer. Just like Tatiana shared at retail, carbonated soft drinks are the most popular beverage category across most generations. The only exception is the oldest generation, age 78 and up. They drink more traditional coffee than CSDs. Within CSD types, there are notable differences. Younger generations are more likely to drink regular CSDs, while older generations prefer diet CSDs. Lemon and lime CSDs are also much more popular among younger generations. After the number one, preferences start to vary greatly by generation. Younger generations prefer juice, non-carbonated soft drinks like lemonade and energy drinks, and milk. Bottled water popularity also varies by generation, as you'll see highlighted in purple there. Middle-aged generations drink bottled water the second most, while it ranks less popular among the youngest and oldest generations. Millennials notably prefer specialty coffee at the number 3 spot more than traditional coffee. That preference for specialty coffee is driven by millennials' love for iced coffee. As we move to older generations, preference for traditional coffee increasingly grows. It will be interesting to see if millennials will keep their preference for specialty as they age, or if they transition to traditional coffee like their elders. A figure that indicates specialty coffee is here to stay is restaurant location growth. As a baseline, total quick service restaurant locations are up by 1% versus 2019. But when we look at the QSR gourmet coffee and tea channel and the QSR juice and smoothie channel, location growth far outpaces that baseline. Coffee and tea locations total over 50,000 in 2024 and grew by 27% versus 2019. Juice and smoothie locations are smaller, but growth is even stronger, up by 35% versus 2019. Within coffee and tea, this channel was long dominated by large national chains. The strongest growth is now coming from smaller, once regional chains like Dutch Brothers, Scooters, and Kung Fu Tea. A large portion of location expansion is coming from the southern US, where growth is 41% versus 2019. Alabama leads the way with a whopping 77% growth since 2019. And per capita coffee growth consumption historically is much lower in the South, where soft drinks and iced tea are more popular. But in recent years, coffee consumption in the South is catching up to the rest of the country. On the right-hand side in the juice and smoothie channel, locations are growing as consumers increasingly prioritize their health through foods and beverages. As we saw in the recent Circana wellness report, healthy consumers increased food and beverage spend by 5% versus a year ago. Juice and smoothie restaurants cater well to these consumers, and growth is widespread throughout the country. Unlike coffee and tea, the strongest growth in juice and smoothie locations is coming from the central US region, led by Illinois and Ohio. It's clear that there is a growing demand for these beverage-focused restaurants, and operators are responding by quickly opening new locations. Looking at it another way, the fastest expanding outlet locations reveal that there are 4 beverage categories thriving right now. All of the chains on this slide have 50 or more locations, grew locations in the latest year, and have a 5-year compound annual growth rate of 3% or more. Coffee, as we talked about, is led by many mid-sized chains. Tea is mostly comprised of bubble tea chains, though also includes chains that focus on iced tea like H2O. Many specialty tea chains were started in just the past 10 to 20 years and have rapidly expanded since then. Growing smoothie and juice chains include the 2 largest in Tropical Smoothie and Smoothie King, but also include newer chains like Nectar, which was just founded in 2010. Lastly, we have the smallest but hottest category in dirty sodas. None of these 3 chains existed before 2010, and all were started in Utah, where most locations can still be found. Dirty soda chains gained national attention in the past year through TV and social media, the fact of which Sally will speak a little bit more to later. The growth in these 4 categories shows that there's not just one way to win with beverages right now. Consumers are craving a variety of new and reimagined beverage options. Of those 4 growing beverage channels we touched on, coffee remains the largest and most popular by far. So let's take a little bit longer look at trends in that category. We've already seen that older generations prefer traditional coffee, while millennials prefer specialty coffee. Historically, traditional hot black coffee dominated the food service coffee category. In the past 6 years, as we see in this line chart, we've seen a large shift in popularity of specialty coffee driven by the younger generations and their demand for iced and frozen coffee, lattes, cappuccinos, and espresso. Traditional coffee still dominates channels like office coffee and full service restaurants, but specialty coffee is already larger than traditional coffee at quick service restaurants, with a 58% share of servings in 2024. Now, going even one level deeper into the specialty coffee growth is the popularity of seasonal coffee flavors, pumpkin in the fall and peppermint in the winter. Over the past couple of years, we see it on the line chart on the left that more consumers are choosing these products each year. And as these LTOs become available on menus earlier in the season, consumers are also purchasing them earlier than ever. More consumers purchase pumpkin than peppermint drinks, though both are growing. The huge growth of these flavors also shows up in our case shipment data, where we see dollar growth above 100% versus 2019 for both syrup flavors, well above the growth benchmark for no added flavor of 22%. Restaurants have a big opportunity to lean into these flavors and also explore new flavors for spring or summer. I want to touch on bubble tea a little bit more, the growth we saw there, as this is a trend to keep an extra close eye on in the coming years. Bubble tea, or boba, is originally from Taiwan and has been popular with Asian Americans since the 1990s. Just a few years ago, it was hard to find bubble tea outside of LA, San Francisco, or New York City metro areas. As the US population continues to diversify and social media has an increasingly important impact on the spread of new and fun drinks, bubble tea locations are now popping up in cities across the country. We see this trend show up in terms of the total amount of bubble tea chains, which has doubled just since 2020. Personally, I've noticed many bubble tea chains on college campuses, which is a clear strategy to gain loyalty among young consumers. I live in a university neighborhood in Boston, and there are 3 bubble tea chains in the stretch of just 2 blocks across the street. All are typically busy with students. So look for boba to continue to gain awareness and grow outside of just geographies with a large Asian American population. So now I'll hand it over to Scott to share the top trends in the alcohol category.
Thanks, Brooks. No and low alcohol beverage alcohol products have been around for decades. So why have there been so many conversations recently in the industry regarding these products? Well, the answer simply resides within the growth. At a time when total beverage alcohol is flat, dollar sales on a 52-week basis, and actually negative by a little over 2% on a volume basis, no and low alcohol represents growth within the subcategory. Now, it's off of a low base, but we see growth wherever we can find it. And this is an opportunity area that many brands are taking advantage of that we'll highlight shortly. It also fulfills a consumer need for seeking healthier products. Those healthier products are not only within what one consumes from a food perspective, but also the drinks one consumes. The drinks transitions to both non-alcoholic as well as in the alcoholic arena from adult perspective, adult beverages, both on the non and the alcohol alcoholic products as well. This trend is across all categories, beer, wine, and spirits, not siloed into one. And the demographics slightly adjust depending upon which category one is looking at, but broad-based in nature as well. It is infusing the category with new entrants. You can see the rise of new products within NA beer, spirits, and wine as they are following the growth. Highlighting a few of the line extensions, we're all familiar with some of the big brands such as Bud, Corona, Peroni. But there's also those pure play entrants in the smaller format, and some that were small but are not so small today, one of those being Athletic, a pure play beverage which has been doing extremely well in the marketplace. Diving into that a little bit further, we'll see some of the growth that Athletic is driving. And oh, by the way, this small but not so small brand is about ready to crack into the top 50 beer. It's sitting at about 52 now. And I think it's just a matter of weeks, maybe a few months, and you will see Athletic in a top 50 beer set as a non-alcoholic pure play, which is remarkable growth for that brand family. As we look into spirits and wine, we see the concentration is more within a few brands. On the spirit side, Ritual, Seed Up, wine side, Free, and Gießen. You'll see some negative numbers associated with these. Those negative numbers are not cause for concern. Actually, to the contrary, it's creating a healthy category. As we have new entrants come in, infuse these categories, we see a broadening out, but again, healthier. We're meeting the consumer demand for these products. Where the concern lies is at the shelf. As we have learned within the seltzer and ready-to-drink RTD segments, when we infuse with new products that consumers are demanding, there's only a finite amount of shelf space the retailers have to work with. So it's good for the consumer, creates a problem for the retailer. We have to find an opportunity to fit in products that consumers are looking for. Zero proof mixed cocktails, or mocktails as they're often referred to, satisfies a premium need consumers are seeking. Kara touched a little bit about the premiumization. Beverage alcohol has really sought the premiumization trend for a little over a decade now. And that trend continues to be strong. I think it's going to be a strong trend, at least for the next several years. Consumers looking for those quality, high-end ingredients. This is satisfying that mini vacation, affordable indulgence that consumers are looking for. It's a little bit of a break in one's life. They can participate in the adult beverage category, perhaps just not participating in always with alcohol. Low alcohol beers, really it's dominated by the chelados. And we looked at this in particular, the Modelo chelados, and the focus here is flavor forward. Another trend that's adopted from the seltzer and the ready-to-drink space, very much focused on that flavor forward that consumers are seeking. So a great opportunity, a great fulfillment that these products are hitting at here. And as we shift over to the low alcohol spirits, they're gaining some share. We hear a lot from the high ABV or alcohol by volume products, that different format, a lot of buzz in the products, but really when you don't want to discredit the low alcohol spirit RTD space. And I'll point to one example here, which is High Noon. High Noon entered the category about 5 years ago, hit into the top 50, then top 25. And last year, this year as well, at various holiday event occasions, High Noon was propelled to the top spirit product, not top seltzer or ready-to-drink product, but the top spirit overall, just to show you some of the success that new products can bring in that are fulfilling that consumer need. And leaving on that high note, then, I will reintroduce Sally to highlight innovation across the broad beverage universe.
Thanks, Scott. And that was actually fascinating. I loved your anecdotal comments on there too. It was fun. Now we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, which is innovation. And we do feel that it's time to raise our glass to beverage innovation. Beverage innovation started a revolution in reframing categories. Scott just talked about athletic brewing. It actually won several awards for their sessionable IPA for craft beer lovers, and how it is also addressing millennials changing their alcohol consumption habits. Then there's Olipop and Poppy, which put a twist on traditional sodas. Olipop is made with plant fiber and prebiotics. Poppy is a sparkling prebiotic soda with the tagline of "It's time to love soda again." Both of these really did drive adoption to their product via strong influencers and TikTok strategies. These innovations have taken attributes that consumers love across beverages to culminate into new beverage type. So we use this particular page just as an example of how that might transpire. When you look at the different attributes like carbonation from water, or adding flavor, plus making it recyclable, adding color, then even adding caffeine, starts to look like soda, or does it? It is really interesting on how attributes are really part of this beverage story. So by looking at a purchase interaction map, you can start to see how different flavors cluster based on shopping behaviors and also consumer needs. For instance, cherry cola competes closely with the attributes that the brand like Dr. Pepper has, or while cola and ginger ale are distinct from lemon, lime, and fruit flavors. By understanding these interactions and where there might be opportunities is essential for your innovation roadmap. We know that 80% of new products fail, but these 2003 new product pace setters show innovation can drive growth even in highly established areas. These growth numbers are from the latest 52 weeks ending in September, and you can see that they're still growing penetration and sales. Beverages are top performing new product pace setters every single year. And these are products that are part of the 2023 Rising Stars. And those are products that didn't quite make the cutoff to be a new product pace setter, but yet are showing strong growth and presence, and again, capturing consumers' needs. We did, however, go back and look at a few more of the new product pace setters to see how are they doing? Are they still winning in the marketplace? And whether you're looking at the Rising Stars on here, or the top C-store, or the top food and beverage new product pace setters, they are indeed still gravitating towards consumers, capturing their attention and increasing sales, part of which is driven by new distribution. There is innovation in food service as well. So Brooks did a great job. I was so glad he got back on to walk you through the beverage story. But innovation also occurs across these four key and large beverage categories. So carbonated beverage, water, alcohol. And you can see that because of the new attributes, because of the innovation, fragmentation is really occurring with drinks like iced and frozen coffee, or even the sparkling bubbly waters that have come out with all the different flavors. And speaking of health, so this particular product that we've highlighted here, it earned a spot on in consumers' homes, featuring kind of plant-based, ready-to-drink products that actually taste good. You can see here that they offer classic flavors like cereal shakes and kind of fun, fruity flavors. But now the company didn't really start out as protein drinks. Its founders actually started with cold-pressed juices that they would sell to local retailers. However, one of its founders became lactose intolerant, which inspired the pivot. The launch strategy really took off, and the co-founder was able to find a passion and be able to drive and zero in on rebranding. And he figured he really did make these more Instagrammable packaging and work to gain limited distribution in some of the natural channels and in Whole Foods, really seeding itself first with consumers who knew a bit about nutrition. And from there, though they have decided to go broad, gaining distribution in mainstream retailers, and recently even scored distribution in Starbucks cafes. Penetration is still relatively low, but they are getting 50% repeat triers. So in summary, beverage innovation is not just shaping up the beverage industry, but also setting the bar for the rest of the food and beverage industry. So now I want to talk about how consumers have actually made beverages their own way by driving through social media, TikTok, Instagram, fueling ideas and innovation approaches. We've all heard of drink 8 glasses of water a day, but what isn't really stated is the type of water we should drink. It does appear that consumers are trying to up their game on water consumption, but doing it in different ways. For example, fruit drinks, mixes, and bottled water, both flavored and non-flavored. You can see the big uptick in volume growth in portable beverageware. The other growth rates might seem minimal, but honestly, it's the growth of topping several years of growth. So growth on growth on growth. The declines now that we're seeing are more from filtration driven by replenishment cycles. So it's still something consumers are gravitating towards, just maybe not quite as much because of replenishment rates. Now, looking at general merchandise categories, portable beverageware combined with sports hydration is the largest growth category, driven by the Stanley brand, the #1 growth brand in all of general merchandise. Over the last 3 years, 778 million units have sold. That's 2.3 units for every 1 person in the US population. Caveat, that number might be a little higher. This phenomenon is being driven by a number of factors. #1, it's social media. There's a fashion aspect and there's a lifestyle shift with hybrid work life. And there's been an increased focus on health and well-being, which includes hydration. Beyond Stanley, many other brands have seen growth in this category. While some do have differentiating items and aspects to them, almost all have the Stanley dupe. Even innovative brands like Kirkle, which are crossing over into CPG space with refillable flavor cartridges, has a duplicate item option. But it's not just water or personalized water that consumers are making their own way. We see it with smoothies and powder mixes like protein. Ninja was the 8th largest growth brand with general merchandise because of this trend. Whether juice extractors or at-home frozen drink makers or others, consumers do like making their own drinks the way they want them. Speaking of juicing, here's an example of some push and pull created in retail when innovative kitchen electronics gained popularity. Juice extractors grew 7% in units versus prior year. Associated with the success from relatively new Ninja electric juice extractor that was introduced in 2023. Now, coincidentally, refrigerated juice drinks aisle, orange juice was top declining category, accounting for 85% of the aisle's volume declines. But within the produce aisle, oranges ranked #7 in volume growth. So there is interesting whether it's because consumers might be turning away from a category and or Ninja met the consumer with innovative alternative, or just buying a new gadget is kind of fun and exciting. There is an interesting correlation between the sales and within grocery and general merch. One of the many benefits of bringing Heritage IRI and together with Heritage NPD is our ability to look at trends within books. And we have found that consumers are turning to books to learn about body cleansing and detoxing. In fact, body cleansing and detox print books hit an all-time sales high in 12 months ending March 2024, growing 70% over period, outperforming the rest of the health and fitness print market. That's what supports really what consumers are zeroing in on from a health and wellness and hydration standpoint. Now, body cleansing and detox leads us to juicing as well as smoothies. So innovative new products and meeting the consumer need, with the #1 growth item in single serve blending being Ninja Blast Portable. It's giving health and well-being, hydration, hybrid on-the-go lifestyle. And again, this is leading indicator. Growth in food and beverage for items needed to make smoothies, fresh and frozen fruit, as well as protein have seen growth. Coffee consumption has changed over the past few years as well. In fact, trends have shifted largely to specialty coffee, and our new hybrid lifestyles have facilitated the need and desire to make specialty coffees more at home. We see increases in frothers, coffee concentrate, espresso makers. Mocha pots have an increase too. In fact, my husband loves his mocha pot. It's a stovetop or electric kind of coffee maker that brews coffee by passing hot water through the vapor pressure. On the flip side, non-electric pour overs have declined along with traditional coffee makers. Understanding these coffee trends will assist you with determining where to play and white space for innovation. Consumers invested in their home bars during COVID and since COVID. So the fact that we're seeing barware decline, it's not necessarily meaning that consumers are not making drinks at home, but they might be using what they already have, and they might be making different types of drinks. Because it's interesting to note that the alcohol-free recipe group books are actually growing while those with alcohol are declining, kind of aligning to the trend that Scott outlined earlier. Now, social media has been a big influencer for how to personalize drinks. I'm going to play a video here in just a second, but it's just fun how we can engage with Instagram and TikTok to learn how to make alcohol or non-alcoholic drinks.
The Vader, for the ones who are never granted the rank of master. Start with lemonade, black cherry syrup, then flip the glass using the sip technique. Add in Sprite, and top with grenadine. Give yourself to the dark side.
I just thought that was a really fun example of how just trying to take something ordinary and making it extraordinary and fun. Now for our next to last chapter, drinking it social media. And this is all about the role of social media and influence on beverages. Social media is helping grow top growing beverages soar through 3 different channels. 1 is celebrities and public images. 2 is influencers. 3, organic content. And that these are the 3 that we're going to discuss. First, the partnerships with celebrities and public figures allow brands to reach millions of consumers at a time. Social media influencers are serving as ambassadors for the brand. These collaborations enable brands to better communicate product messaging to a more targeted group of consumers through a source consumers engage with regularly and trust. The organic content from social media users, either influencers or largely social media community, helps prepare viral food and beverage trends and inspires new usage occasions for products and brands. 7 of the top 10 brands that were found to leverage social media, especially influencers. They are noted here, and in addition, these beverages are focused on some of the themes that you heard from Tatiana: energy, high protein, and prebiotic. Top growing beverage brands are partnering with public figures on social media. For example, Core Power has partnered with Katie Ledecky, our 14-time U.S. Olympic medalist ahead of the 2024 Summer Olympics, as well as Peloton instructor Matt Wilpers. And C4 collaborated with musician Ludacris, as well as many college athletes, including Cam Ward from the Miami Hurricanes. Brands can talk to a more targeted group of consumers through influencers. Many brands have created hashtags that influencers will include in the captions of their sponsored content, like Pound Celsius brand partner, Pound Olipop partner, Pound Poppy partner, etc. This marketing tactic enables consumers to more easily find their other influencers for the brand on social media platforms. In some instances, influencers create content that communicates brand messaging and product information to their social media following. They might review the product or show how it's incorporating it into the lives. It is important to note, however, that balance is important. We know that sometimes social media can be on the flip side, not always positive. So it is important to monitor and measure effectiveness and engage with those influencers as you can. Brands benefit from non-sponsored content posted by influencers, as we were just talking about. And these are some examples, especially the one where Brooke said I would talk about it, the resurgence of dirty soda. So where consumers combine their soda with a cream or creamer, many are sharing concoctions online. There's the creator using Coke Zero and Chobani coffee creamer. You also have Core Power being another version of dirty soda as well. The last chapter, Finding Growth One Sip at a Time, we're going to take a quick look at some of the trends that we think might impact 2025 going forward, and then also some action ideas for you. We will continue to see stores innovating to avoid theft. So this might be through lock cases, item place cards, pickup only, but that will influence about what they buy. So it'll be important to make that connection to them and help them understand how to get what they want, given whatever way in which they can get the product. Packaging. Over in Europe, they're requiring all their single-use plastic bottles to have caps that have the tether to the bottle, and that will help reduce plastic litter. The tethered caps are designed to be difficult to remove and throw away, which helps to ensure both the bottle and the caps are recycled. We're going to see how that goes and see if that's going to be something that ends up coming over the pond. Global warming will increase demand for cold, refreshing beverages due to the longer, hotter summer seasons. There's U.S. demographic shifts that are going to help and or be a headwind for categories like the aging population bodes well for coffee, while a diversifying population really does bode well for global drinks innovation. Supply issues, which lead to higher prices, will also be something to contend with categories like orange juice and coffee. From a retail perspective, new and innovative products and general merchandise that could influence the types of food and beverages being bought should be looked at, like juicers, espresso makers, and who knows what's next. You need to ensure you have the right assortment and promotion in place for trading innovation for beverage products. The swinging pendulum of work at home versus hybrid versus full-time, it's going to continue. So that's going to influence not only what consumers drink, but how. And then books can be a showcase for health and wellness trends where consumers' interests are shifting, like the body cleansing and detox that we talked about. So what else can you learn from the books? If you have not heard about our Future of Morning report, please listen up. It is a paid-for report, but it is saying that the beverage morning occasions will grow 4% over the next 3 years as Gen Z and millennials increase their consumption as they age. In addition, the report states that beverages centered on hydration and energy are projected to continue to outpace the population growth over the next 3 years. And it also is saying that based on consumer survey and trends, we know that energy and hydration will continue to be a trend going forward. So now, what should you be thinking about actioning in your company and or for your brands? Well, we recommend that you capitalize on the evolving consumer preferences by adopting holistic, data-driven approach to portfolio strategy and innovation. Redefine your occasion-based portfolio strategy. Conduct a comprehensive portfolio review to identify opportunities across alcohol and non-alcoholic offerings, focusing on key consumption occasion need states. Accelerate innovation in high growth segments. Develop a strategic innovation roadmap focused on no-low alternatives, functional beverages, and unique flavor combinations. Implement agile, data-driven decision-making. Establish a framework for using advanced analytics to track and predict emerging flavors, consumption occasions, and consumer preferences. Align portfolio with consumer needs and attitudes, and also optimize growth strategies across channels, especially with a price size architecture by channel. We hope that you learned a bit more about what's happening in beverages and are inspired to take action with one or more of these ideas that we shared. On behalf of Brooks, Kara, Tatiana, and Scott, I want to thank you for attending, and we hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.